Okay, it is 6:30. We're going to get started. Thank you for everybody for coming tonight to the How to Pick Your Classes in High School. This is being put on by Find Your Fit through the Lake Washington Schools Foundation. I'm Mary Pat O'Neill. I am an independent college counselor and I created the Find Your Fit program. And I'm joined tonight by Taylor Rule, who is amazing. She is a school counselor at both Redmond and Juanita. I think she's worked at all the different high schools by now. And the way tonight's going to go is I will be approaching the topic from more of a college perspective, and Taylor's going to be talking about it from the district and the state graduation requirements, all that type of thing, because there's a little bit of a difference in this. And before we get started, hopefully I only have to say this once. This is being recorded. Everybody who registered will receive a copy of this. We understand the timing of this. You know, some schools and students are being asked to pick their classes right about now. So fingers crossed, the foundation gets it out tomorrow or Saturday at the latest, but we are aware of the timeline here. So, and thank you to every family who made a donation. 100% of the monies received goes toward the programs of the Lake Washington Schools Foundation, which does awesome work in our district, and I'm proud to be associated with it. So, all right. So, we're going to be talking about high school graduation requirements. We're going to talk about what colleges look at. We're going to talk about classes students may want to take if they have specific college majors in mind. We're going to talk about how to read a course catalog and using the district planner, other types of classes. We're going to talk about high school classes taken in middle school, retaking classes, changing schedules, and then we will open it up for questions. Last year there were a lot of questions, so we'll see. Maybe we answered them all last year and we won't have a lot tonight, but we'll see how that goes. But we're going to save questions till the end, so that way we can get through the material, and Taylor and I have both pledged to stay as long as we need to answer everybody's questions. So, yeah. Okay, Taylor, why don't you talk about graduation requirements?
Great. I'm hoping that this isn't too unfamiliar for most everybody. This is posted on just about every single comprehensive high school and our choice high schools websites. Additionally, it's also on Lake Washington School District's website as well. These are our state and our Lake Washington School District graduation requirements. Every student will take 4 years of English, 3 years of science, 2 of those being lab sciences. I will say that most of our science offerings are lab-based sciences. Math, you'll graduate with 3 years of high school math, 2 years of world language, which needs to be the exact same language. So even if we've got a student who takes 2 years of Spanish and 1 year of ASL, those will count for Spanish will be your world language. ASL can count in a different category. They must be consecutive years. Social studies is 3 credits. Of those 3 credits, we do need to have a 0.5 that will be civics. You need 1 full credit that will be world history and 1 full credit that will be US history. The other 0.5 is a social studies elective. We have 2 full credits of art. 1 can be what's called a PPR, which is a personal pathway. We can talk about that a little bit more. I think there's probably something a little bit further down that we talk about that, but really depending on your student's graduation pathway and post-high school plan, there can be mild modifications to that one just to move that extra credit to a different subject space. PE, every student is required to do 1.5 credits of PE and then 0.5 of health. I would say that 98% of our schools, I mean, I know all of our comprehensive high schools, everybody is taking PE and health as a freshman. Those are integrated classes for most of them, not standalones, which means that you've got a little bit of PE and then you've got a little bit of health, then you got a little bit of PE in order to meet that graduation requirement. We have occupational ed. You'll also hear people say occ ed or CTE. It's changed and it's slowly making its way more to CTE, but you do still hear people, especially in our district, using those interchangeably, but that is 1 credit of that. So what's neat is that we've done a really great job, and our teachers are unbelievable, being dual credited, which means that they are dually endorsed, pardon me. So we have a lot of science classes that also count for our CTE classes. We have a lot of art classes that count as our CTE. That's 100% behind this, well, magic lady at the district, Kate Atbars. She does a lot with that. But also our teachers make it so that it's possible for students to have a dual experience. And then we have 4 credits of electives. Every year I always have students who kind of freak out about electives, whether or not they're going to have enough in their schedule. If you look at sciences and math, you see that it's only 3 years. So if your student decides to take a 4th year of either of those will kick down and become elective credits. So you can see that it's so easy to get all of those elective credits used up by the end of your 4 years.
Okay. Anyone talk about?
Yeah. So these are 2 other state graduation requirements. We have our Grad Pathway, and then we have our HSBP, which is high school and beyond planned. For those of you who have a current high school student, on their transcript at the very bottom, there's going to be an additional, it says the little box that says additional graduation requirements. You'll see that it says Grad Pathway and high school and beyond plan. That's what this is. And for those of you who have students, maybe 8th graders going into 9th grade, they would have started their high school and beyond plan already this year. It's via the program Zello. It's a really, really cool online program that really does exercises on how to get your brain wrapped around thinking about post-high school planning. By no means does it mean that your 8th grader needs to know what they want to do for the rest of their life, not even close. But really what it does is it just starts getting them thinking about, like, how do I see myself? Where might I go? Let's talk about jobs and how do I function out in the big wide world? The Grad Pathway is really, really interesting. I don't know, actually, Mary Pat, do you want to go to the next slide? Because I think that might be easier, a little visual to explain Grad Pathway.
Oh, hang on, I will.
Okay, sounds good.
Whenever I've learned, whenever I touch anything,
It likes to shrink you.
There we go.
Here we go. So this is Grad Pathway options. The state has made it so that starting with the class of 2020, that you need to graduate with via one of these grad pathways. Now, most students will meet this by doing their SBA. So we have an ELA and a math SBA that our students will take. They usually take it their 10th grade year. There's a cutoff threshold that if you score higher than, oh, it's right there. So there's the ELA score and the math score cutoff. So if you score that or higher, that means your grad pathway. Another way is doing your dual credit. So let's say that you are doing running start, or let's say that one of your CTE classes that we were talking about, let's say that it's dual credit, which means you can also earn college credit. Then you can meet it that way. If you are,
Can you give an example of a CTE class that maybe falls into that category?
Well, it varies from school to school. Yeah, so it varies from school to school. However, I will say that let's just pretend for a minute that your business marketing class, let's say that that also has a dual credit option so that you would learn, or that you could earn, I don't know, like a business credit or maybe elective credit through LDEB Tech or BC. What that can do is that could potentially meet your grad pathway for either English or math. So it's really dependent on the specific school, to be honest. But you also have, so like the next option for AP in Cambridge, right? Cambridge is only offered at Juanita. And so let's say that you have a score, a cutoff score for your Cambridge classes, your Cambridge tests. That can meet your grad pathway, but your AP exams, if you take them, if you look in the AP eligible for ELA and then the AP eligible classes for math, it's just showing that if you get it either a C or better, a C plus or better, or a 3 or higher on your exam, that can make it so that you are meeting your grad pathway as well.
Taylor, I've been told before when I do speaking that I assume people know what all the little initials like ELA and stuff like that.
Mm,
Not everybody does. We've got some newer families and stuff. So if you
yep,
can
absolutely. Thanks for the reminder
break
because I will
down
tell you,
the terminology here.
education loves an acronym.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, boy, do we. So if you look at where it says state assessment, the SCBA is the Smarter Balance Assessment. That is our state assessment. ELA is English Language Arts. The math, like I said, math is it's like math is math. I'm trying to look at
AP.
AP is Advanced Placement. That's actually a class that is essentially, or the curriculum is provided by collegeboard.org, and College Board also provides SAT testing. Cambridge is really specific. Cambridge is a program that actually I think it originated in England. Juanita High School is the only school that has Cambridge, and that is a lottery system.
Yeah, it's
Um,
choice schools.
mhm. It looks like ELA, math, ACT.
Yeah,
Those look like kind
I
of
just,
most of them.
yeah,
So what's nice is this grad pathway option. Yes, your student needs to be aware of it. However, they might have already or will be on their pathway to meeting this and they won't even know it. It's just going to show up the next time they look at their transcript and it's going to say, hey, your grad pathway is met. If not, one of the beautiful things about your high school counselor, and you're welcome, is that we will let you know. We reach out to you nonstop and be like, hey, this is going to be a way for you to meet your grad pathway. We are on this. We're tracking this at nauseum. I have, nightmares in May about making sure that my students have this met before they graduate. So don't stress and panic about this. It's just awareness around it.
perfect. Okay. Okay. So one of the things I want to mention is while there are high school requirements, which Taylor went through, the 3 math, 4 English and stuff like that, sometimes colleges want additional or they recommend. It's not required, but it it is recommended, such as the University of Washington really recommends 3 years of a foreign language. Now, UW told the college counselors recently that they will take 2 years of one and 1 year of a different one, and they count that as 3, which I was happy to hear that. This is University of California, UCLA. You can see that it shows the required, and then for mathematics, they recommend 4, science, they only require 2 in the state of California, but they do recommend 3. And again, in our state, we require that. And then foreign language, they recommend 3. And in case you're ever wondering, well, how would I find out what a college recommends? On this slide, you can see the source collegedata.com. It's a wonderful resource for all sorts of good information about colleges. But on that website, for a college's page on that website, it's under the admission, part. So, okay, so there are 5 possible things that a college may consider in the admissions process. There are many, many colleges in the United States. There's more than 1,900 four-year public and private schools. And I often say that as a college counselor, my life would be much easier if everybody would just do it the same way, ask for the same information, et cetera. And when students are going through the application process, they would most likely agree with me, but they don't. Colleges always do things the way colleges want to do things, and it's not the same. So there's 5 possible things: the transcript, standardized test scores, that would be the ACT or SAT. They can ask about a student's high school activities. They may require letters of recommendation. These can be from a school counselor, a high school teacher, or someone outside of the high school. And then there could be essays. And one of the things I stress to students is they would probably be shocked at how quickly a college reads through an entire application. Even if they ask for all 5 of these pieces, the University of Washington asked for 3 of them. They asked for the transcript, high school activities, and the essay. and they probably spend maybe 7 minutes total reading the entire application. And the part that they spend the most on is the student's transcript, and that's why it is always required. So that's what we're going to talk about now. So I always hate saying this because anytime I bring up this topic, it becomes like, what do you call it? Like an explosion of people get all freaked out. But in the state of Washington, our public schools use what is called an unweighted GPA. We have a 4.0 system. There is what is called a weighted GPA, and some states use that, but we do not, okay? And to think of a GPA, GPAs as buckets, and the top bucket is the 4.0 to 3.75 bucket. Then we have 3.74 to 3.5, and then 3.49 to 3.25, and it just keeps dropping down, okay? So I always tell students, you should know your GPA, and it's on your unofficial transcript in Skyward. But again, we use unweighted GPAs. Most colleges, not all, again, because they all change how they do things, but most colleges, a student's cumulative high school GPA starts with 9th grade classes. College applications are typically submitted in the fall of senior year, usually in November. So the last full year of grades that a college will see is going at the time of application will be junior year. And that's why one of the reasons why everybody talks about the importance of junior year grades, because it's the last full year. This does not mean that senior grades do not count. They do. And Taylor, I'm sure you're probably getting some requests for mid-year reports from colleges and stuff. Students are asked on their college application, what classes are you taking? And I tell my students, if you change that, you have to let colleges know. You can't drop those AP classes and all that.
Another thing is they ask counselors. And
Yes.
so we have to report that.
Right.
So if your student drops any classes, if anything changes from the classes that they reported they were in and the classes that we confirmed that they were in for their senior year, we must report that to the colleges and let them know that you have either dropped that class or you have switched it for a different class, and then we have to give a reason why.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they do ask.
They do, and it can be serious, and they can, and if your grades suddenly go down a lot, they can change their mind on their offer of admission. Okay. When a student completes their college application, it will say, what is your cumulative GPA, again, through the end of junior year? And then there are 2 boxes on the college application. One says weighted and one says unweighted. So students in Washington State have to say unweighted because that's what we have. And just so you know what a weighted GPA is, let's say a student was taking an AP class and they got an A in it. Instead of them receiving a 4.0, it would be a 5.0 in a weighted situation. If they got a B, instead of it being a 3.0, they'd get a 4.0. If they took an honors class, instead of it being, let's say they got an A again, instead of a 4, it'd be a 4.5. Again, and everybody does it differently. You don't need to worry about this because every college, when they receive a student's transcript, they dissect it. And they all have their own methodology for how they calculate, and they do it the same for every student whose application that they receive. So it's not that they're going to do anything differently. So, but just so you know, we don't weight our GPA, and it is fine. And this is the mother in me, because I do always like to remind students that in our district, we don't do A minuses. A 90 to 100 is an A, and a B plus, which is it 87 to 89.9, Taylor? Is that a B plus? I think it is. Anyways.
Take that one more time.
I said, is a B plus an 87 to an 89.9? I think it is.
I believe so. The grading is a little bit tricky for me because, well, you know how I feel about the grading.
Yes, I know. Anyways, but what I'm saying though is, well, there's nothing wrong with a B plus. Yay, if you get a B plus. But if it is a 0.7 drop in GPA, and college, GPA does matter. And so just pay attention don't wait till the last week of the semester to be like, oh my gosh, I have an 89.9 because the teachers don't round up. So just pay attention to your grades and early on, and if you can do anything to make things up or extra credit or whatever they do. So, and this is just to demonstrate what I mean about GPA. So this is the University of Washington. This was just recently updated. This is a breakdown of admitted student GPA for the Seattle campus. And you can see that 93% of admitted students this fall had a 3.5 or higher. So, you know, if a student had a 3.3 GPA, which is great, it's a B plus, but they wanted to go to the University of Washington, Seattle as a freshman, this data shows that it's highly unlikely to happen based on their GPA, and there's other paths to get there. But this is why, grades can be important. So, so Taylor, I mentioned that there can be a high school teacher recommendation, there can be an outside recommender, but there's also a counselor recommender. And one of the things that I often hear from students that I talk to is that they're worried. They're like, oh, I don't know my counselor, and does it have to be personal and all this? Do you want to explain to everybody what a counselor recommendation is?
Yeah. So I'm going to go back a little bit just to say college applications are done different now, and college applications are now done on what's called the Common Application. It's called Common App, and it's an online application that not all, but I would say majority of the institutions have all decided that they are gathering similar or like information so that they have agreed upon application. So that agreed upon application is housed online, and students will enter in all of their basics, right? Like their address and where they go to school and all of those basics. And then what will happen is they'll self-select which schools they plan on applying to. And from those individual schools, it'll then tell what additional requirements are required. And of that, it will be if a recommendation is required, if a school report is required, if a secondary report is required, and I'll go through what those things are. But no matter what, you will always have a counselor that participates in a student's college application. And you'll enter in, the student will enter in their counselor specific information. It will generate an email that sends to, I'm going to say it's for me. It'll send an email to me and say, hey, so-and-so has asked for your contribution to their Common App. I will click on that and I'll look at what are the requirements that it's asking. Oftentimes students will just start clicking buttons. And I get it because it's a lot. It's overwhelming. To be quite honest, it's like taking on a whole nother job. It's a lot of work to do the Common App and to do application season. And so, but the difference between a counselor recommendation and a counselor contribution are two different. A lot of what we have thought of classically as a letter of recommendation, an LOR, classically that can be from a teacher, right? Usually it's from a teacher because colleges want to know from a teacher, how do you learn? Tell us about you in this specific subject that you are really, really highly motivated and very interested in. But some schools, and to be honest, it's mostly private schools, require a counselor specific letter of recommendation. And so it's really, really helpful for students to look at that with a critical eye to make sure, because otherwise we're just clicking the buttons. And so counselors will end up having letters of recommendations requested from 100 students. And that's a lot. It's a little bit bananas. So you want to make sure that you really look to see, is the letter of recommendation required, or are you looking for your counselor to contribute to your application? And what that means is we will upload a school profile, and later there's a slide that will show exactly what a school profile looks like. Each school has their own school profile. They will provide it to you. It's usually posted on their website, and the school profile has, you know, how many students are graduating in the class? What are the data and statistics of the population? Tell us a little bit about the school. The other things that it will ask is for a counselor to sign off on the student has reported that they are taking these classes or they're enrolled in these classes. Can you confirm and provide a semester one schedule? So we upload a semester one schedule. It'll say student has reported that they have taken these and this is their GPA. Can the counselor confirm? We'll upload a transcript and give the school a heads up. Hey, here's the context of this, or here's what this looks like. We have to do this again. It's actually coming up at the end of the semester. So the first few weeks of February are bananas for counselors again, because we do the whole thing over again. We upload a second semester schedule. We let the colleges know if there's anything changing from the upload from their semester one schedule to their semester two. We also upload a new transcript, because that transcript will now include the semester one final grades. We do this again at the end of the school year, when students are getting ready to graduate. We have to upload a final transcript. So we do this 3 times a year. So if you haven't said thank you to your counselor yet, please do, because it is an enormous lift. It is so much work to do this process 3 times a year. So the counselor recommendation, like I said, there's just a little bit more of weeding through it to make sure that it's necessary.
So Taylor, can you, I tell seniors, you know, if they need letters of rec from teachers or if they need something from their counselor, please do not wait to the last minute. Any guidelines you want to give about the information from counselors?
Yeah, I would say that most schools now at this point, I was at LDEP for almost a decade, been at Juanita, now Redmond as well. I will say all 3 of those, while I don't know East Lake specific, I could imagine that they are just equally aligned with us or with all the other comprehensive high schools. And I will say that you need at least 2 weeks at the minimum. After 2 weeks, that threshold of if you're making a request for a letter of recommendation less than 2 weeks away, it's not likely going to happen. You need to plan ahead. Yeah. It's just a huge lift when you start thinking of 100 letters on top of what you already existed, like what already exists as your tasks. We need time. The other thing that you want to be really aware of is there's a lot of deadlines while we're on while we are on breaks. And counselors teachers, counselors, recommenders, it doesn't even matter. That's not exclusive to people who work in education. I mean, anybody, you have to build in time for life happening to those that you're counting on. They might be on vacation. They might not be checking email. They just might be one of those crazy people who just doesn't check email in general. So you want to make sure that you're giving enough time because you're asking them to contribute by an outside deadline. So really, really important to stay on top of it.
So here's a question for you. If a student, again, this is what I tell students, if they were to be needing a teacher recommendation, they need to talk to the teacher. Now, for a counselor recommendation, would you prefer for a student to come in and, you know, say, Mrs. Rule, I need this, or is there completing the form on the Common App and that gets sent immediately to you? Is that sufficient?
Yeah, I would say that again, most all of the comprehensive high schools, and I would say choice school as well, they're going to have you fill out what's called a letter of recommendation request form. It's on the counseling website. So if you go to whatever school it is that your students enrolled, go to the counseling tab at the top. There's going to be a page that says something about college applications or counselor recommendation. Like there's going to be something that is the languages around that. Most all of us have a Microsoft Forms that the student, can upload information about yourself. Because for a teacher, let's say it's your science teacher and you're wanting to go into some sort of science major, it's a pretty one-track conversation that you're writing about in a letter of recommendation. For a counselor, I mean, if we have talked about your suicide ideation for the last 4 years, I doubt you're wanting me to put that in your letter of recommendation. So you need to fill out this form to give me some direction on how would you like me to write about you that will benefit your plans. You know, we want to make sure, I mean, and we wouldn't be putting that anyways, but I'm just saying if that's been the basis of our conversation, we really want to be clear about how can I benefit and be the most helpful to you? So I need some guidance. Filling that out is really helpful. I will say just a blind ask where all of a sudden I get like a Common App request in my inbox of like a letter of recommendation and it's needed by next week. That's cause for concern for me. I'll respond to a student and be like, listen, you need to fill this one out. I need more information. I'm going to need more than a week. So yeah.
Okay. Great. Okay. So you mentioned the school report and
Yep.
the so you want to talk about
High
that?
school profile. It's great. I mean, what's nice is, like I said, every school, every high school has one. It'll say because Common App will ask you, what's your class size? What's your graduating class size? They'll also ask things like your demographic for free and reduced lunch. They'll ask about how many students are going to a 2-year, a 4-year, what's the average ACT or SAT scores. It'll have a list of the classes that you offer, a little history or background of the class or the school. Like, is it in urban or is it a rural school, private, public? It will ask a lot of very specific information about your school. Like I said, it's provided on your high school's website. You will need it. Every student will. It'll also say that we don't report rank. That's kind of tied to that unweighted weighted GPA. Ranking is back in the day when we used to have a valedictorian where you'd have like one person with a 4.0. Because we don't have an A- in this district, we have too many people with a 4.0, so therefore we can't do class rank. That's not equitable. So that just does not work. We do not report rank.
No, students don't send in the school report.
No, counselors will on every single
Yeah.
Common App.
I just wanted to
So every
clarify that so
application
people
will
didn't
get
think,
sent.
yeah, so that people didn't think that they had to send it in. They don't.
No, but it might be handy because schools will ask, especially if they're using a different online platform. So let's pretend that they're not using Common App, they're using Score or they're using Coalition. There's a lot of different online applications, but I would say, like I said, there was like 90% of them are served by Common App. But they might ask for this information from a
And
counselor.
sometimes they have it, like, from what I understand from the University of Washington, they have the information available on all the Washington high schools. At least that's what they've communicated to the counselors. So,
I mean, they'll have, well, they have state reported data, but they don't have like our updated data that's year to year, like courses that we're offering and such.
okay.
But that's why we provide it to students in case they need it for some reason. If you're like, oh my gosh, I don't remember how many people are in my class size, it's there. You can print it out and you can use it for however it's the most beneficial during this season.
Okay, and this is an example of Redmond High School's school report, which is available online. And one of the things that that is included in these school reports is it lists the classes of rigor offered by a high school. And this is a topic that parents can go a little crazy on, I think a little bit. So the reason why colleges want to know this, and at at Redmond High School, you can see the classes of rigor are honors classes and then the AP classes, and you can see them all listed. At Eastlake, where my kids went, it was honors classes, UW in the classroom, and then the AP classes. At Skyline, they have honors classes and IB classes. So every school is different. And the reason why colleges want to know what is offered is just like people are different and colleges are different, high schools are different. We are in a very strong public school district with wonderful high schools, and our students have a lot of offerings to them. But there are students in the state of Washington that don't even offer regular calculus, let alone any of the other calculuses. And colleges don't want to penalize students for that. But at the same point, there are some colleges that if they see that a school offers these more rigorous courses and a student has never taken advantage of them, there are some colleges that don't think as highly of the students' work. So anything you want to say there, Taylor?
No, I think that's good.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, what happens when I say what I just said is that then people will think that, oh my gosh, I need to take 6 classes of rigor in one school year. And I know students who overload uh, their schedules with it. And I I don't I don't think that's healthy personally. I'm a big believer in students pushing themselves in the classes that interest them. Um, you know, both of my kids happen to be math and science kids, so those were the classes that they took. And part of it, because as I said, there's other things that go into a college application, a student's activities and things like that. And it's if every emphasis is put on the academics and nothing else, that's a student who may struggle. I've talked to a lot of students who tell me how much anxiety and depression that they experience with these heavy workloads. They worry that if they're not getting A's in all of these, classes, it's really difficult. And and I know as parents, sometimes we hear people talk and we think, oh my gosh, our kids should be doing this too. And Taylor, I know in your experience, you've seen it firsthand. So is there any words of wisdom or stories you want to share about being
Yeah.
careful about too much rigor?
Yeah, it's interesting. Sorry, I was looking at the chat to make sure that we still had like all of the things, just making sure that I'm covering the bases. And I do see that there's a lot of stuff about waiting for pick your classes. We're getting there. There's a lot of kind of foundational stuff that we need to go over in order to give and provide context to how to select high school classes, which is why we're starting here and working our way backwards. So with rigor, it's tricky. I feel like I have a really comprehensive understanding now of rigor in our district because I've been at so many of our high schools, our comprehensive high schools, and I will say that students are struggling, and the struggle to be everything, which they think needs to be AP or oh, that was interesting. To have an AP class on their transcript in every single subject for all 4 years. That's just unrealistic. The reality is that nobody is amazing at everything. Like, it's just not the case. We aren't good at everything, and that's okay. We have strengths in lots of different things, and really rigor should be based on what am I interested in and what do I do well in. And we just so happen to do really well in the things that we are interested in,
Right.
which is wonderful. Like, it's magic.
Because then we're willing to
So
do the harder work because we're interested in.
yeah. I will say also, I think that there is a myth out there that is perpetuated, and I'm not entirely sure by who, whom, or how, but that colleges are looking for that as well. They are not. They are not looking for you to have AP classes in every single subject. That is not something that they have ever said out loud ever to me in the over a decade that I've been doing this. And I don't know, Mary Pat, if you've heard something different, but I have never heard that. And colleges are calling me all the time. I talk to them often. So I'm not entirely sure where that's coming from. So I will say that our students are struggling. They feel overwhelmed. They feel pressure to be amazing at all the things. There's nothing sadder to me than a student who is coming in and feeling just so lost and overwhelmed, and they're taking classes because their friend's mom told them that they're never going to get into a school if they don't do this, or because all of their friends said that they have to take this class, and if they don't, and if they get behind. And that is, I mean, I guess the best I can tell you is please know your kid, be gentle, be aware. Too much is too much. You're supposed to have balance, right? You're supposed to be able to be a kid still.
Yep. They are kids.
And I really do think that you need to honor that. I have been told a couple of times in my career, well, you would never say that to your own kid. No, I have, and I will continue to. That is my advice, my best advice after all these years of working in this. Happy kids, balanced kids are happy and balanced adults. So let's remember to start showing them that now, because overwhelming will just continue to be overwhelming. So.
I had worked with a student, a wonderful young man, and I really liked his mom's perspective because I think we were talking about his senior year schedule, and I was worried it was going to be overloaded, and it wasn't. And I said to him, I said, "Wow, I'm really proud of you. I mean, he didn't ease off, but it wasn't horrible." And his mom said, if I still see a smile on his face, because that was his normal personality, I figure it's good. And I thought that's a nice little barometer there. If your child is still able to enjoy their lives and have fun with their friends and do all the things that they enjoy. So,
yes. Yeah.
Okay. Oops. So, let's see, did I go too far here? There we go. Okay. So I'll just talk briefly here. Because obviously, students may have some thoughts about what they want to major in college. And keep in mind, again, I'm with you. I've been doing this for a decade now too. Is that the majority of college freshmen, more than 50%, they change their major, they change their mind. And I'm not one to put a lot of pressure on students, although, it's fine to explore things and do all that. So these are just some basic guidelines. So if a student was interested in pre-med, becoming a doctor, they do recommend 4 years of math, including calculus. Keep in mind, it could be regular calculus, doesn't have to be AP calculus. 4 years of science, AP and biology, AP Bio and AP Chem, and English, because they need to have strong communication skills. Students who are interested in computer science, again, 4 years of math, 4 years of science, including AP Chem and AP Physics, and then any computer science classes that their school offers. Nursing, 4 years of math, including statistics, 4 years of science, AP Bio and AP Chem, and then anatomy and physiology courses. Again, if the school offers it, they don't all do. For engineering, 4 years of math, including calculus and stats, AP Physics, computer science classes, and then if the school offers engineering classes, that would be great. And for business students, again, math, and you can see math is pretty required. It is, given what everybody goes into. Strong writing skills, so plenty of English, any business classes, and then computer science. And if students are interested in architecture, again, 4 years of math, English, studio art, and then physics. So, all right.
Okay.
You want to?
Are you gonna attempt to make that one work?
You want me to do it or no?
Totally up to you. So every school in our district has a link to the course catalog on their school specific website. If you go up to counseling, there will be a link that will say course catalog. It's been updated. What's cool about our online course catalog is that there's a little drop down that you can pick this specific school. So if you access this on the Lake Washington School District website, it will also say course catalog. You can drop down and let's say you select Wanita High School. Okay. And it will show you then Wanita High School's specific course catalog. And
I pulled up East Lake. I apologize. It was first. So and this would work for Wanita or Redmond or any of them. But then what you can do is you can click here on, this shows you all the courses, but let's say you just wanted to know the science classes that were offered. And then it shows you all of this information, and there's descriptions, for environmental biology. I think there's a description, isn't there?
It'll show you descriptions, and then what else is really cool, it'll tell you, is there a prerequisite? Is there a recommendation for a concurrent class? Is there oftentimes teachers will also give you an average homework to expect either nightly or weekly, which is wonderful, just so that your student can start averaging. If I get home at X o'clock, how much time am I going to need to be able to do this homework that is of this class? It'll also tell you if that class is like a dual credit class. So if it does give you credit for college credit as well. It'll also give you a heads up if it is an AP class and if there is an AP exam associated with that class.
Or if
So
there's
it'll
a
give you
fee
some,
with the
or
class.
if there's a fee or class fee with the class. So it will give you some beautiful information that is school specific and it's broken down by subject.
It used to be, the course catalog used to be a paper thing a couple of years, and up until a couple of years ago, and it's now all online. So in case you're looking for that paper piece, it's not there anymore.
Yes. So this is rad. I would say again, most schools, if not all of us, this is in I mean, we house this now in the counseling office. We have this, we use this quite a bit. This is really for students to start. It's actually from Zello. If you notice at the top, it starts talking about what are my career clusters. So Zello, which we talked about, which was the high school and beyond plan, that online platform that your 8th graders would have already started. And it's also a graduation requirement. But they have what's called a 4-year planner. So if your student wants to try out a bunch of different options, like, okay, if I started with this science class and then I kind of parlayed into this, or I'm really interested in being a teacher, so I want to make sure that I have space for teaching academy. How do I fit this one in? So it just makes a really, really wonderful visual for your student to see how am I going to get the classes that I want or the classes that I need to meet both high school graduation and my interests and post-high school plan.
Right. And I know sometimes people fill this out completely starting 9th grade through 12th, and they have everything planned out, which is fine. But at the same point, in my opinion, one of the magical things about teenagers is that they learn and they change and they grow, and it's okay, to change your classes. You don't have to have it all figured out in 9th grade and have it be cemented that you can't.
Do it in pencil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So.
So
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to go back there?
No, this is totally fine. And what's the reason why this, yep, I'll get there. Actually, I'll go to Running Start and then I'll get there. So
Okay.
Running Start is for juniors and seniors. So that would actually be for if your student right now is a sophomore and your student right now is a junior. What we're doing is we're actually having a conversation about what they will be doing next year. So your sophomores will enroll, if they want to, in Running Start in late spring of this year. The reason why we bring it up is because every single student is going to register at their high school like they typically would. Like they are going to end up at that high school and they will be there next year. Because we know that life happens, and we know that sometimes teenagers change their minds. It's really important and valuable that as we're going into registration for next year's classes, that whether your student is planning on doing Running Start or not, that paperwork and that is not set in stone yet. So please, students, register for classes at your home high school. Please make sure, because it is so much harder for us to go back and redo your schedule if you show up on our door in September. So please do it now. Like I said, Running Start is a program that you can access going like your junior and your senior year. You have the ability to earn your AA degree, which is your associate's degree, your 2-year degree, at the same time as your graduation requirements and your graduation from high school. Now that path is tracked by the college. For you to be able to get your AA degree, that is not tracked by your high school counselor. Your high school counselor will only track your student's high school graduation. So it's really important for your student to understand that they will be treated like a college student because they are. They will be on a college campus fully. They will be earning college credit. They will be working with professors. They will be independently doing that on their own. The college cannot, because they are completely protected by HIPAA, they cannot release your students' information to parents. They can only do that with students. So your student needs to be self-guided. Your student needs to be a mature student who is ready to have conversations with grown-ups about their academic endeavors, who schedules appointments, who can pick college courses, because the college will not allow parents to do that. So just a heads up about Running Start. Very, very cool program. I'm not going to spend too much time on it just because I want to get to the part where we're registering for classes in our district. But Running Start at all of the high schools, that registration is going to happen in about March, April. So I would start looking at your high school's counseling website for upcoming Running Start registration guidance.
Yeah, they usually have a meeting, don't they, Taylor, to explain it.
Yep, and a lot of them have self-guided videos that are posted on their college, or pardon me, on their school counseling websites that will walk you through the steps to enroll.
Yeah, and Running Start's not for everybody. Some students love it, some students it's not for them, but it does allow students to earn college credit while in high school. I always remind families that the priority is to fulfill your graduation requirements. And basically the way that it works is Running Start students, instead of going to school for 2 semesters, they attend school for 3 quarters. A quarter is 10 weeks, so it's quite quick. And a 1 quarter class, let's say an English class, is the equivalent of a year of high school. So students can take 9 classes over a full year. Students can go part-time or full-time. Again, they can earn an associate's degree. Students still apply as freshmen to 4-year colleges. They do not apply as transfer students. What happens is students apply to colleges to fill out all the paperwork. When they get their decisions back and they decide which acceptance they're going to, which college they're going to attend, then their college transcript gets sent to that college, and the college determines what credits that they will be accepting. And most of the colleges around here, they're like UW, Washington State, Gonzaga, etc. Oregon State, they're fine. There typically isn't an issue with accepting the credits. But it's a great way to save on the cost of college, because the Running Start classes are paid for through the school district. So another great opportunity that we have is the Wanck Skill Center program. Wanck stands for the Washington Network of Innovative Careers. You may be familiar with the summer programs that they have. That schedule usually comes out in April, but they have full year programs. And I've worked with a number of students who have done them. The students seem to really enjoy them. And this is the list of classes for next year that they're going to be offering, which is wonderful. So just know that the Wanck classes are available. Wanck classes students have to get themselves typically to either another high school or to the Wanck Center, which is housed in the Lake Washington Institute of Technology. So there's some logistics to it, but it's a great program. All right, let's talk about one of my favorite subjects, Taylor.
Oh boy.
Okay, this one always is like another box that you open, a Pandora's box or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
You want to talk? You go ahead. You talk.
Okay. Math taken in middle school, Algebra 1 or geometry, they are considered high school level classes, so they will be calculated into your high school students' GPA, and they will be on your high school transcript. Same to be said about world language. If your student is taking a world language class in middle school, those world language credits will be on the high school transcript, and those grades will factor into a high school GPA. Now, let's say that you have taken Spanish 1 and 2, your 7th and 8th grade year. Well, actually, it would be just your 8th grade year. That Spanish 1 class, you will go into Spanish 2 then if you would like. You would like to go into Spanish 2 your freshman year, you can. You don't necessarily need to have that Spanish 1 grade on your transcript if you don't want it to, because colleges know that in order to be in Spanish 2, you would have had to have taken Spanish 1. It's not necessary. Now, if your student is going to be done with world language after 2 years, that they have met their graduation requirement of 2 years, and they know that after that they would like to be done, your high school counselor will want that other grade, their other 1.0, that Spanish 1 class on the transcript, so it shows the 2 years of world language. But again, let's say that your freshman wants to take Spanish 2, and then as a sophomore, they take Spanish 3. That's 2 years that's showing on the high school transcript, so you're set. But in reality, your student's actually taken 3 years. So it's all okay. Like it's good. There's no sense of urgency. I will tell you this is, as much as you can possibly have your transcript be a high school transcript, that is my recommendation. And colleges are not interested in seeing grades from 7th grade on your high school transcript. So,
Okay.
I'm gonna let you, Mary Pat, do the math with the underlined caution.
Okay.
Okay.
Actually, I'm gonna save the caution because I made a new slide for tonight. So I'm gonna talk about the caution later. But
Brilliant.
just logistically, so in the past, let's say prior, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, and the high school classes taken in middle school, and it's algebra and geometry and then foreign language. Those are the only high school classes that can be taken in middle school. They weren't on a student's high school transcript.
They wouldn't automatically
Yes,
be
students
put on the high school
yes.
transcript.
And sometimes if I was working with a student who maybe wanted to bolster their GPA, they might ask to have those put on. If they had done well in the classes, they might do that. And then, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, it changed where now they're automatically put on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so am I correct? Because I things change a lot. Correct me if I'm wrong. If a student wants to have those classes removed from their high school transcript because it doesn't perhaps enhance their high school GPA, because again, you're 7th graders, 8th graders, whatever, they have until the end of junior year to remove them.
Yes. So there is a form, there's an appendix that is a district form, and this is actually a state requirement. So it's via OSPI. This is not a Lake Washington school district. It is OSPI has said that students have until the end of their junior year, which means the last week of your junior year. If we do not receive that paperwork, we cannot remove your middle school grades from your high school transcript.
And am I correct that, let's say a student decides to remove them in 10th grade and then for whatever reason says, oops, I shouldn't have done them, they cannot have them put back on, right? So you have to be very careful with this form.
Yep, once you make that decision, it's done.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And the reason is it's a legal document.
Yeah.
Right. So I will tell you, I have not had a college who has ever been like, yay, I'm so glad that we've got our 7th grade grades on a transcript.
I know.
Yeah, they've never, and not for any other reason other than it's supposed to be a high school transcript.
Right.
And so they're like, but like, wait, now it makes it so that your transcript's like 3 pages long. Like, what's going on? Like, and the problem is also is students don't know how to report this on their college applications because there is no space for it. So you can't report grades that are from 7th or 8th grade because they say high school. So they only allow you to report grades from 9th, 10th, and 11th and 12th grade.
Right. And again, in the math, you know, it goes algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, pre-calculus, blah, blah, blah. There's a track, and
Yes.
colleges know that. So
Yep. Yep. And that is universal.
yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So I'll still be talking about my math warning in just a minute, but
Okay.
let's talk about again, this is a subject I often even though I don't have students, my children are in their late 20s now, but I go onto the parenting Facebook page that they have, because I like, in case there's college questions, I like to answer them for people. And oftentimes people talk about retaking classes. And I
Mhm.
always tell people, because I get this question myself, you can only replace an apple with an apple. You can't replace an apple with a banana. So can you talk about retaking
Yeah, yeah,
classes?
yeah, yeah. So sometimes okay, so there's a few different ways. There's like a traditional route here. So let's say that your eighth grader, this happens a lot, by the way, which is totally fine. I get this question a lot, especially as we're getting ready to go into middle school classrooms to talk about registration. So eighth graders will be, let's say that they're in Spanish 1. And maybe they're not doing very well. And by very well, maybe they're doing perfectly fine, but they just need a little bit more foundation.
Mhm.
Can my student take Spanish 1 again? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no reason why not. The Spanish 1 in eighth grade doesn't need to be on the transcript. You can take it when you are a freshman and maybe you want more foundation. Same to be said about your math class. Like if you want more of a foundation, Algebra 1 is the foundation for all of your math.
Right.
You need to have a firm grip on concepts in order to be successful in all of the others. So that's a class that I never recommend that people take online, ever. Like never, ever. This
Mhm.
is a strong foundational class. You need to be strong in those skills to be successful in the skills that are required of you later on. Some students will retake classes in the middle of their high school career. So they'll do it as an online class, or they'll want to take it again for like what they'll call as a grade replacement.
Mhm.
Now, you actually can't replace grades on a transcript. That's not possible. No matter what you have earned will stay on your transcript.
Mhm.
But like we talked about earlier when we were talking about GPA, for every letter grade, there is a number associated. There's a GPA associated with it, right? And that's calculated into the overall cumulative GPA. So if you earned a D in a class, that D is calculated into your GPA. So let's say that a student's like, I really, really want to retake this one class because this D is hurting my GPA.
Mhm.
They can take an OSPI approved online class and they can have it so that that grade is calculated into their GPA. And we do what's called zeroed out.
Mhm.
We take that D that was previously earned and it will stay on the transcript, but it's no longer calculated into the GPA. Okay, so
Yep.
colleges will see that you earned the D. It won't impact your GPA because you've taken this online class somewhere else. You can definitely do that.
Yeah. And I would, and that happens more than people might think. And on college applications, the Common App that Taylor was talking about earlier, there's a spot that says, hey, is there anything else we should know? And I always encourage students to talk, just to explain what happened and, why they retook it. With retaking classes, and I don't know what the district policy is on this, but again, it depends on the college, but there are colleges like the University of California system, they won't consider if a student retake, let's say a student got a C and the student's like, I got to retake this. The University of California system will not accept the replacement grade. They will take a D. And I once met a student who got a B plus and she retook the class. I don't even know how she got permission for that, but that's neither here nor there. But all that work that she was doing to have a 4.0 for colleges, it didn't work because they won't accept it because there's nothing wrong with a B plus. So, and I do want to stress that students need to get permission from their school counselor for
Before.
retaking classes before they take it. It comes up every summer again on this Facebook page.
Yeah.
People are like, I'm going to have my kid do this. And everyone says, you have to have permission, because if they don't, you don't have to accept the retake, right?
They have
Yeah.
to be OSBI approved, which is they have to be state approved, because we still have to uphold a quality of education. So we need to make sure that you are in fact learning the concepts that you need to be successful in later courses.
And when I said an apple can only replace an apple, a banana cannot replace an apple, what I mean by that is if a student needed to retake physics, they can't replace it with AP physics. It has to be the same class.
It has to
So,
be a light class.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then how about as the second semester is coming, I hear this a lot. I'm going to change my schedule. Can you talk about students changing their schedules, Taylor?
I will tell you, this is so tricky because I've been around for a while now, and so I've seen it ebb and flow. I think what's really, really hard is it requires a little bit of an understanding of how a master schedule is made. A master schedule is it starts actually in February of the year before. So we're about ready to go into that season, okay? And what it is counselors will do registration at the high school and also at the middle school. And what we're doing is we're gathering data. We're gathering everybody's requests. What do you want to take? And with the understanding that you're doing your homework, that you are looking at the course catalog, that you are mindfully selecting classes. And then what most of the comprehensive high schools do is in April, May-ish, we give you an opportunity to look once again at your schedule that you picked for the next year. Okay, are you still good with these? You know, we know that you're a high school student. We know that you're an 8th grader. We know that change happens. We know that sometimes you change your mind. That's okay. So double look check this, make sure that it's everything that you want it to be, and then we'll be good to go. Then what happens is that our high school principals and our district are working together to make a master schedule. The master schedule is based 100% on those student requests. So we formulate a schedule with teachers and we do all of our hiring. Everything is then based on those student requests. So when it comes to the fall and your student comes to, the first week of school and says, I don't want these classes anymore. I actually want to switch the whole thing and I want to move this and I want to do this and I want to take this. We have limited availability. That's how tight it is. We have made our hiring based on you and based on your students' requests. We have done everything to create this schedule based on what students want. So it makes it really difficult to make changes. A new thing that is happening, and I see movement towards it becoming more and more set in stone, is second semester schedules, zero movement. There is no schedule change. Like right now, I can tell you at Juanita and Redmond right now, we are not taking schedule changes for semester 2. We don't have space to move students. And so if you think of it like this, if there was a student at the beginning of the school year that requested a year-long class and they're like, never mind, I don't want to be in that year-long class. I want 2 semester-long classes. Well, now you're taking up 2 seats versus 1. And so that's 1 less elective for maybe a new student that's coming in or a transfer student, or perhaps a shift in somebody's schedule based on different stuff. Like if you're doing like a level change or something, it's so tight, it's just not happening. So changing a student's schedule, it's just not happening like it used to. And by that, like I've never seen it this tight before in all of my years. Movement's not happening.
Okay. Duly noted. So people should be very careful about what they choose for
Yes.
the following year.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about math. So back when, so going back to, how do you pick your classes? Remember, there's graduation requirements and you have to look at the course catalog and pick classes and, think about rigor if it's appropriate, given your interest and all that stuff. So for math to graduate in the state of Washington, it's 3 years of math. A lot of colleges like to see in senior year what's called a math-based course. It doesn't have to be a math class, but it can be, but they want a math-based course. The University of Washington is one of the schools that likes to see this. And math-based courses can be things like chemistry or AP chemistry, computer science, statistics, physics, things that are math-based. And so I tell students, like, hold off, like when you're picking your classes, just try to remember to hold off on, have a math-based class that interests you, whether or not you take regular physics or AP physics, again, that's up to you, but have a math-based course available for senior year in case a school that you're applying to wants to see that. The other issue with the math, this is the caution part. So when we showed the school report, and I get a lot of questions about this, if students are at a choice school and it's not the right fit and they're going to switch and go back to their home school, and parents are always worried. And I'm like, no. What a college looks at is what is offered at the high school. So at many of our high schools, AP Calculus BC is the highest math class offered. And that does not mean that a student has to take calculus. Like, again, it's not for everybody. But that's the highest math class offered. And colleges don't expect students to go beyond that. And again, I hear a lot of chatter and see things, and so many families, I've had students go, Mary Pat, I'm going to take pre-calculus over the summer before my sophomore year so I can take AP Calculus AB as a sophomore and blah, blah, blah. And you're not helping anybody with this, because your child's going to run out of math classes, and colleges don't want students, especially if you're going to go into a STEM field, they want them to have, AB Calculus BC senior year. And then when they go off to college, they go into the college level classes, versus if you've maxed out all your classes in junior year, you're going 18 months without a math class. And that doesn't, as Taylor said earlier, math is so foundational. Taking a year's worth of material and cramming it into a summer, oh my God, there's so many better things a student can do in the summertime than to cram. And because these classes are typically remote, one thing we all learned during the pandemic is that math for a lot of students did not translate well to remote learning. There was so many students had issues. So please, if your child is taking AP Calculus in their junior year, they're already 2 years ahead. Fabulous. That's wonderful, but they don't expect them to be further. Taylor, anything you want to say to my plea there, that to please stop the craziness with math?
Yeah, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. I think it's tricky because there's this fine balance, right? I think that a lot of parents probably get testing scores that support math progression, but I feel like what you do is your student best. Your student knows themselves. And so if your student gets overwhelmed, if the idea of taking these really upper level classes, I think it gets hard because we think about it as math starting if you start Algebra 1 in 7th grade. I think we forget then that means that your student will be in Algebra 2 as a freshman, which means they'll be in pre-calc as a sophomore. Those classes usually have seniors in them. So you're talking about if you're on the younger end. I was the younger, I mean, I had a summer birthday, so I'm 14 and I'm in a class with the 18 and 19-year-olds. I don't know. Like, there's something to be said where we just don't think about it as it like pushes forward. I also cannot tell you how many stories I've had of students that are good at math but don't enjoy math.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, maybe they were totally fine and it seems like a really, really great idea in 7th grade. And then they're in their freshman year of high school and they're like, I wish I could go back because I don't want to be
Right.
in calculus as a sophomore. I don't want to do this. How do I not do this? but that's the way the math progression
Right.
goes. And
I,
I'm not lying to you. I see all of the students who are overwhelmed, who are sad, who are pressured, who are taking all of the things. Just make it an easy choice for them. Sometimes we have to make the decision for our kids, not them making the decision or their friends making the decision for them. Sometimes it might be better to just say, let's put a pin on this and wait and let's reevaluate next year.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the rushing ahead because math is so foundational.
Yeah.
It just, they, they don't learn it properly. And then I've talked to kids who've taken the AP Calculus AB as a sophomore because they took pre-calculus over the summer and they're like, I'm I'm lost. I don't understand because they didn't learn it properly. So
It's become a race.
yes,
Yeah.
it's a race. Okay. Before we go to questions, I'm just gonna, because I think people will probably drop off. Find Your Fit has a couple upcoming events. In 2 weeks from tonight, I'm doing a session with Lake Washington Institute of Technology, which is a wonderful alternative to the traditional four-year college. They offer Running Start. Um, there's been a lot of talk. A lot of families have said, the cost of college is so high. We need some alternative paths. And Lake Washington is such a wonderful jewel in our community. So I encourage you to, if you want to learn more about Lake Washington Tech. And then on February 2nd, the Friday from 3:30 to 5, I'm doing a counselor is in session. It's just a 10-minute one-on-one with me. You can ask me any questions that you want. And then to get in touch with the webinars on demand, or if you have any questions, you can email me at Find Your Fit. I'm a resource in the community. I'm happy to answer any questions that families might have. So